Welcome to the podcast with your favorite cash flow guys, Mike and Blaine. Giving you the best advice while having a beer. When you're running a business, there are problems every day. Let Mike and Blaine help you out and guide your way. Cheers to the good times with Mike and Blaine for business, beer, and BS.
So, hey, it's episode 90 of Mike and Blaine. I am Mike Mylan. That is my partner, Blaine Birch, CEO of Dry Run. Blaine, what's going on, my man?
Oh, man, ready to go. Another big round number, the 90. We're getting close to that big 3-digit, which is going to be pretty cool. So, yeah, excited.
Can you imagine? Can you imagine 90 episodes? I've spent at least 90 hours with you.
Easily, yeah. Easily, just BS and drinking, and then we've had bonus BS and drinking outside of this too, which is kind of fun. So yeah,
so
good.
But it takes 10,000 hours to be experts, so we're still rookies in podcasting.
Still rookies. We got a lot more to go and a lot more beer to go through before we're full pros.
Yeah, I actually got a Kimberly no, and I got to figure this out. But she says we will send you beer to sponsor the podcast. She sent me a message just about a couple hours ago. We will send you beer to sponsor this podcast.
That's just terrific. That's terrific.
Right?
The studio audience is excited too.
So I'm like going, what? So I got to figure that out, the logistics of it. But send us beer to sponsor the podcast. That's all it takes. People, if you own a brewery and you're not trying to get evergreen material with just your product, you're doing this wrong. You're doing business wrong.
Send us beer. Send us beer. Odd Company, I'm talking to you because we're there like twice a week already anyway. You guys could sponsor us.
Yeah, what are they doing? I mean, I'm surprised. Do you think it's you? I mean, I'm starting to think it's you because people always want to sponsor me. How come they don't sponsor you?
You know what? I think you're right because I think you're more boisterous out there telling everybody about it, and I forget to say something.
That's right.
I got to work on that.
I'm the bigger beggar.
I'm the straight man here, I think. So I got to work on that.
Hey, speaking of, that means I got neighbor Pat came down to the driveway earlier last week. It was just last week. He says, "Hey, I want to sponsor another podcast." So he's going to make some more beer or bring down some more beer to the house for the podcast. You know he's moving, and it hurts my feelings that he's moving, but I ain't going to forget about him. I'll go up there to Fort Worth area, Arlington, or wherever he's going to be at, and visit him and drink his beer. Because that's what friends do. You drive up to somebody's house, drink their beer.
Yeah, nice. Nice.
So we will have a finale before Pat leaves the neighborhood. And he's going to be sponsoring the podcast one more time.
Nice. Oh, that's good stuff. Well, that's going to be exciting, except a little sad too. So,
hey, you know what I don't like about this intro? We're doing more talking than drinking beer. So what are we drinking?
All right. Well, so your topic today, I thought I need something to go with the topic, and so what I found in my fridge, double Jutsu.
Okay.
Which just seems great for the topic. And double Jutsu from Bellwoods Brewery in Toronto, Canada. And actually, my friend Glenn and I went to Bellwoods. It's a few years ago now, but we were walking through downtown Toronto and wandered by a brewery. And I'm like, hey, man, that's a brewery. So we checked out a bunch of their beer. They got some excellent sours, too, as well.
All right, so you made a connection to the topic. I haven't told you the topic yet. So, I mean, you're reading ahead. You're sneaking ahead. You're looking into stuff. All right, but the topic
I copy
today,
and pasted into the streaming stuff. I got to do that now. Yeah.
All right, so, but the topic today is my business has a side hustle, right? Which I thought was such a crazy thing. Like, double Jutsu, right? So, but I didn't do that. I ran across this cool can. Now it's 8% bigger, so I don't know where we're going to end up.
Mine too, and it's a big can. It'll be a train wreck.
Yeah, remember that can I had in Vegas? I'm like, oh, Jesus. Yeah. I was like spinning at the end of it.
It's a small keg.
Did you ever do 8-bit computer games. Like
Yes.
think about like
Yes.
Mike Tyson's Punch Out or those type of things it is. So I found this one. I guess we all did. If you did any kind of Mario or Donkey Kong or any of that stuff.
Joust. I
Anyway,
remember one called Joust.
it's by SpindleTap Brewery, and it's called Heavy Hands. Right, so you
Nice.
see that. But it's got like there's
Cool.
Mario. It looks like,
Yeah.
and there. Remember, because that looks like
Yep.
that looks like Mike Tyson's Punch Out type thing, right?
Yep.
Right. Look, there's hops
Absolutely. Yeah.
there's hops as boxing gloves. So I'm going to
Nice.
assume this 8%. See how the 8% is like the old scoreboard? How
Yep.
cool is that? I guess
Beauty.
it's going to knock me out. It's
That's a
probably going to knock
great
me out.
can.
It's a great
That is
can,
a
right?
beauty.
It's like
Love good
nostalgia.
cans.
You know
Yeah,
what's
it really
made a
is. I love those
comeback?
cans.
You know what made a comeback for over the last 10 years, I'm going to say, is those retro video arcade games. Arcades. Actually, you go in and they got games that maybe you and I played when I had a pocket full of quarters and I'm heading to the arcade. What song is that? Oh, Canadians don't know that song. Huh?
I don't know that. I can't picture that
I
song.
got a pocket full of quarters and I'm heading to the arcade. You don't know that one?
Never heard it. Never heard it.
I got Pac-Man fever. You don't remember Pac-Man fever? Driving
No,
me
well, I remember
crazy.
Pac-Man.
It was Pac-Man fever. Come on, it was like a number one hit song. I mean, Canadians get hit songs. I'm sure they got it. Do you know Pac-Man?
Oh yeah, we definitely had Pac-Man. We had arcades. I remember spent way too much time and money in arcades, but I don't remember that song. And a lot of times the songs do cross the border, but we've got a lot of great Canadian musicians. So a lot of times the charts are full of Canadians too. So yeah, missed that one.
I'm gonna think that came out somewhere around early '80s.
Okay.
I think I was still riding a bicycle. So, experienced Pac-Man people like me. I didn't say old. You see, I said experienced. I'm becoming a lot more PC. So, experienced people like me that maybe played Pac-Man back in the day. Do you remember Pac-Man Fever? Right, we should play it. I mean, if we had a producer, see, this is why we need a producer next. The producer would have already had it queued and played it right then when we said it. So that's why you need a producer.
No, producer Blaine is not ready to do any of this stuff, and there's probably licensing fees that we can't afford either. So it's it's. I do have I got a nice beer pour sound. But I get so nostalgic when you start talking about those 8-bit games. Like I remember we spent how much time in the back Q-Mart, the little place not far from our house. It was called Q-Mart, but you went in the back door through the alley and got into the arcade. And I remember those days with Pac-Man and Miss Pac-Man and oh man, Galactica. I think was one of the was awesome and
Galaga.
Invader. Yeah, Galaga and Space Invaders.
You better get that right. You're gonna have video game guys trolling us here if you don't get it right. Galaga.
I'm just gonna get because it wasn't that. It was around the same time as Battlestar Galactica, so it was an honest mistake. And the original Battlestar Galactica, none of this new bullshit stuff like the original stuff. But
but then you had Centipede. You had asteroids.
Yep.
Asteroids.
Yeah.
There was a tank battle. I can't remember the tank battle one where you maneuvered a tank around these like blocks or something like that, barricades, and tried to shoot each other.
Frogger was another one.
Yeah, got it.
Do you remember the one that was the cartoon night one? It was like graphics wise suddenly blew everybody away.
Joust.
No, it wasn't Joust. I don't think. With the guy
Joust
that was literally
Joust was like you're riding an ostrich, and you got a knight with a guy, and then you're hitting like things as you're flying around these different platforms, and you're trying to. Is that not it?
No, it's not that one. It was the one that came out where the guy was basically the graphics looked amazing because it was kind of cartoon clips that played, and he was a knight, but he was kind of
right. I remember that. It was. I remember that because they would cut into different scenes. It was like the first one. I can't remember what that one was.
I can't remember what it was. Yeah,
Knights something sounds right. Knights crossing.
Knights something.
Yeah.
Man,
I remember
where I got
thought
all
that
those
was
quarters
the coolest thing ever. Yeah, I thought that was the coolest thing ever. That one was. Cool. So here's the thing about that. All right. So with this retro games coming forward, right?
Yeah.
But you can buy beer and food and all that at these places. What's the main business? Is it the video games or is it the food and beer or liquor?
Oh man, you know my thought on that is that when I look at breweries, it's a little bit the same way. There's a lot of breweries. They have their brew pub and their food. They oftentimes have food there, but I can usually tell within about 4 seconds of walking in, is it a bar, like a restaurant, and they kind of plunked on a brewery, and when they do that, I'm like, oh, the beer's probably not going to be that great, or is it a brewery that they're trying to draw people in? They're obsessed with beer, but they offer food, and it actually, as soon as I walk in, I can tell the difference. But there are two completely different aims. One, the side hustle, is the food, and the other one, the side hustle, is the brewery on it, added on.
Yeah, so I was in Utah. This is where this kind of came about, right? This whole topic. In one of the breweries, it's strange that you brought that up, but one of the breweries, I think it's Uinta. Oh no, Uinta. It's like Uinta Brewer, Uinta Beer. Like, but it's Uinta. It's like Uinta. Yeah, Uinta. That's how you pronounce it. So you've got Uinta, I think is who it was, and they have a new way of attracting traffic to their brewery. This is where my business has a side hustle comes from.
Yeah.
And what I mean by that is the new way is they started selling spots in their parking lot to RVs.
Oh. Okay.
So they could increase traffic to the brewery. So think about that. You're driving through Utah or whatever. You got Arches and Zions. I mean, you got all these wonderful, beautiful, just places. I was just in Utah. It was so awesome. Yeah. But they started like going, oh, we need more traffic into the brewery. Let's get these RV people to do RV camp type stuff here in our parking lot, and they'll come into the brewery to use the bathroom, nice. To buy the beers, to get the food. I'm like going, yep. Oh shit, who else does that? A lot of people are starting to do that. Just find a different way that complements, and that's what I want to talk about today is if you do have a side hustle, something that really isn't part of your core business, but is intended to help your business, make sure that you don't have a side venture that can kill it. And I've got stories about that, but it's a true side hustle like this. That was such a great story to hear. Oh, I got this big parking lot. Don't have enough people filling it up. All these RVs are going to all these national parks. Let them park.
Yeah. Well, first of all, I think there's, it's interesting because is that a side hustle or is that basically guerrilla marketing or lead gen? In a way, because you're looking at how do we drive people into our main business. But the other part that's interesting is they obviously recognize it's like kill two birds with one stone because they have a lot there that they can monetize, and they can drive people into the brewery. So it's kind of it's I guess it's a side hustle, but it's what I love about it is it's like it's not a distraction. Hopefully, it's very much generate more revenue with the assets we have, with the resources we have, and drive customers. That's really cool.
I think the distinction between lead gen marketing and side hustle is just that. They can make money independently with just renting out the spots. They don't need the brewery. So that's what makes it a side hustle. It's like two independent businesses that kind of coexist in the same spot. And, there's the cluster theory of business. Mm-hmm. Have you ever heard me talk about that, the cluster theory?
Yeah, especially restaurants are,
Yeah, well, they're all kind of in the same area, or bars do that, or car dealerships do that. They all kind of in the same area, so you can capitalize on everybody's marketing, right? And people, you don't even have to market. You could have a business in one of these areas and not market. Like maybe they don't have to market the brewery if they just market the RV park, right? You come for the RV park and go, oh my God, here's a brewery. And I go there just because I'm in the area. I go to the area for a specific event. I want to eat at a restaurant. I want to go to Lowe's, and then Home Depot's right down the street. I want to buy a car, and there's 10 choices in a block area. So I don't know. I think it has more to do about clustering like businesses that can feed off of each other.
Yeah, I suppose like what I like about that example, because there are businesses or there are people with side hustles that are they're not connected. They're just completely disconnected. Like if I was selling like my skateboards that I make, that would be a side hustle, except I'm like, I don't need to turn that into a business. That's what I do all day. But it could be a side hustle, not really a connection. What I love about that is it's a side hustle that generates money, and it drives people through your doors. And to me, it's part of it is just, it makes me start thinking, how do businesses take advantage of resources they maybe don't realize they even have to drive more sales into their business, to drive more awareness, to drive their brand in ways that directly dovetails. But that would be what I would say is kind of an unexpected way, but it makes so much sense.
I want to respond to that, but I got a text from Pat just a few seconds ago. So it's like the peanut gallery, it's throwing peanuts at us, I guess. He says I can't sing. How rude is that? I mean, it's my show. I can sing if I want to. But I don't think he's telling me I can't, like physically can't. I think maybe I'm not good at it. Maybe I'm not a good singer. Maybe that's what he should.
I think that's probably what he was saying. Is that not you can't sing? Is maybe you shouldn't. I don't know. This is like we're now the Muppets with Pat. You're one of the guys up on the top that the two guys up at the peanut gallery there that would complain about the show, which was so awesome. Those are my favorite guys.
Yeah, it's funny. It's the worst show ever, but he's going to watch it. Hey, speaking of the worst show ever. Oh, go ahead.
Well, I was just saying, fortunately, the only time we have the song is during the and it actually is edited out during the jingle at the start.
Yeah, he's not talking about that. He's talking about when I sung Pac-Man Fever, I'm sure. That's what he's talking about. Because I don't sing during the jingle. Remember, I lip sync during the jingle. He's talking about me trying to, I was just trying to give you an example of what the song was.
Singing a song that I've never heard before in my life and didn't recognize. Although maybe I would have recognized it. Maybe you just didn't do a great rendition of it. I don't know. It did sound familiar to me though. I thought he sang it all right, but I've never heard the song, so who knows?
We have a video game in there that says I do karaoke perfect all the time. You ever seen that where you can sing, and all you got to do is get the right. You don't even got to get the word right. You just got to get the tone and the what is it? The affliction.
Does the autocorrect? Does
auto
tune
you don't
or whatever?
Have to get the word right. Yeah, it's what's that called? The inflection. All you have to do is get the inflection of the sound right, and not the exact word right. It could say, well, you're supposed to say yodel, and I could say poodle, but like, what's close enough? It was at the right inflection point, and so he got it right. Got 100%.
Yeah, you don't want to have the wrong emphasis.
Yeah, emphasis. Hey, what's happening? I mean, you're starting to get your Canadian accent back. I mean, you've only been up there less than a month. You've only been up there less than a month. It's coming back.
Okay, emphasis is not Canadian. That's a joke. But but I do think, and I think I mentioned it a couple of weeks ago. The first week I got back, someone told me how to drawl. Like they said, I'm talking like an American. But I've been here for a few weeks now, and I think it's starting to fade a little bit. And now the Canadianisms are probably creeping back in. So I don't know.
Yeah, when you said American, it was wrong. I mean, it sounded wrong.
Oh, what was I supposed to say? American?
America. They're supposed to be America. No, all right. So, I was going to tell you the worst movie in the world. All right. So I love this actor, Steve Buscemi. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
Steve Buscemi. Yeah. So I'm like going, I went through this one kick. I'm like going, I'm going to watch Steve Buscemi movies because they all got to be great. I watched this one called Trees Lounge. Okay. And You probably won't ever find it. Maybe you will. I mean, if I find it, I'm gonna watch it again because it was that bad, right? It's like one of those, like, oh, I can't turn, I can't look, I can't look, but I still look. It's one of those things where he's like just the biggest loser in the world, and everything that happens to him gets worse and worse and worse. And the whole movie is just he can't catch a break anywhere. It doesn't matter what he does, his life just gets worse. The whole movie. And Trees Lounge is just this bar he goes to, and everybody he interacts with, he has a terrible interaction with. So I'm like going, that's the word, and it's just terrible. The whole thing is terrible the whole way through, and I can't help but watch it. That's how I feel. We are Trees Lounge to Pat. He just can't help but watch it.
Hang in there, Pat. We'll get back on topic.
Oh yeah, we're talking side hustles. All right. All right. I forgot what you said. Can you recap it? I got way off on a tangent, and I had a thought about. Well, you had this massive like monologue about
side hustles.
About side hustles.
Yeah. Well,
Get me back on track.
Okay, get back on track. Well, first of all, like when you're talking about this Utah brewery, what I love about it, and I think this is where we can really dig in, is because you mentioned the danger of a side hustle, and when you're doing something that is a distraction, and it draws resources, it draws money, it could literally kill your business. But when it's done right, it could actually drive not only revenue, but drive customers right through your door. And I think that's such a cool opportunity. And what they saw was, we get a giant parking lot. Obviously, they must have a big parking lot, right? Like, it's not like a little, or enough room for a couple of cars. And then they looked at what they can do with that. And I think that's brilliant. And I think that's a great lesson for a lot of businesses, especially today when it's a real challenge and things are changing so fast. What can you do? And we saw a lot of it during COVID. We saw a lot of businesses. We saw, sort of service businesses offering product businesses offering service. It was all, they're dipping their toe in. It just makes me think about like, man, yeah, that's what could you do to drive business that is just an enhancement and low risk and not actually, hanging you out to dry.
Yeah, so I was trying to think of like a really interesting combination, but most of them end up being supplemental products, right? It's just like, Facebook buys Instagram. It's just a variation of what they already do. Volvo has a joint venture with Uber. That actually, it's a joint venture, so it's not a true side hustle. It's a joint venture in the fact that you can get a Volvo through an Uber purchasing program because it combines two things that need each other. Uber's got drivers, Volvo's got cars. I'm like, okay, that makes sense too. Yeah. Expedia, right? Expedia, and then you look at TripAdvisor. Well, TripAdvisor really just is an affiliate program of Expedia. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Right? If you look at it, they sell stuff through. Expedia owns a travel business. I mean, in case you didn't know that, if you go to Priceline, most of them are Expedia-based companies. So,
okay.
But all the big ones seem to be complementary or supplemental services. Sometimes when you see this, like an RV with a brewery, you're like, those wouldn't exist in nature on their own. Right? It just like somebody had to have some ingenuity about that. So I'm like going, what are some other examples of businesses that don't seem to fit, right? That you're like going, that doesn't really seem to fit, but I used it. So I'll be thinking about that through the show. But let me talk about the other part that you said was it could kill your business. Yeah. And I've got a couple of examples. One of them's a longer story. Another one's kind of a shorter story. I'll tell that one first.
All right.
So,
Pat, hang on for the long one.
Pat, I'm not going to sing. Don't worry about it. I'm not going to sing. But, all right, so there was a point in my life when my grandmother would say things like, stick to your knitting. You know what that means?
I get it. I've never heard it, but I get it. Yeah.
Hey, when she told it to me as a child, as a teenager, she meant mind my business, right? Mind your own business. But it stuck in my head as something like going, okay, well, this is outside of my business. Meaning now as a small business owner, mind my business, not somebody else's or something else. But in the four stages of growth in a company, right? Some people call it startup, and then growth, then maturity, then decline. Can you see that graph where you start out small, you grow, you mature, and then you start declining? That's kind of the life cycle of a company. Well, I call those wonder, blunder, thunder, and under, right? It's fun to say. It makes sense. The wonder years of a company, it's kind of when you're starting up, you got all this fire, but 8 out of the 10 of those companies fail. The blunder years is where this thing comes in, this sideshow venture. Sideshow ventures can kill a company in the blunder years, and this is the high growth. This is where you see hockey stick growth. It's the difference between, we've talked about it here, pushing your idea to the market or the market pulling your idea from you. Like, oh, instead of you need my stuff, they're saying I need your stuff, right? It's the difference between those two. Well, when that happens, everybody around you starts to go, holy shit, Blaine's doing something, right? Blaine's actually taking off. Blaine's having a successful company. And then they start coming to you saying, hey, you know what? We should partner on this. Or if you're good at that, you should try this, or you should add this to your product. Or, all these ideas come out of the word work because when people see success, they want to attach to it somehow, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, there was a guy had a construction company up in the Seattle area, and I'm trying to avoid all names and stuff like that. And he and his wife used to take a vacation once a year to this bed and breakfast in the San Juan Islands, right?
Yeah.
One of their trips, it came up for sale. He had a successful construction business. It came up for sale. He bought the bed and breakfast.
Yeah.
Guess what? When you run a construction business, bed and breakfast don't fit, right?
A little
It just
different,
doesn't. How do you go from hanging a rafter to changing a bed sheet? It's just the businesses don't fit, right? So what happened was he had to get, and it's in the San Juan Islands, which means it's off into the sound, not on the mainland. You got to take a ferry or a plane or something to get out there, or a boat, I guess. So anyway, they're spending a lot of time traveling back and forth, trying to get this business going and running, but they don't really understand anything about hospitality or food service or these type of things that you have to do. Well, the first year and a half, they lost a little over $1 million just trying to figure this out. Where do you think that $1 million came from?
No, just drained it from the construction company. You see it all the time,
Yeah, from the construction company, right? So, and then if he's driving and spending all this time trying to figure out the bed and breakfast, guess what happened in his construction company? Yeah, the downward spiral into losses. So he did 2 times damage. He robbed the construction company of all the profit it was making, and because he wasn't there, the decline in quality and revenue and all that stuff, because he wasn't paying the same amount of attention, also happened on the back of it. So it's one of those things where like going, that sideshow venture, that's why I call it a sideshow venture, because it's like something that's way off, not even in your core lane where you're successful. It's off on the side. It distracts you. It takes your time. It takes your money. So they sold it, lost another $500,000.
Yeah. And
3 years later.
Yeah.
Oh, go ahead. I was saying 3 years later, they bought a winery. Yeah, they bought a winery 3 years later.
Oh.
Yeah. It's like, not only was it that bad, but they didn't learn the lesson. It was $1.5 million lesson that they didn't learn.
Yeah.
Oh, go ahead. So,
it's just, it boggles my mind. But the other thing, see, none of that drives anything into the other. It's not like you're making like you can market them all together. You can drive traffic. You can drive customers. Anything that ties together. These are just completely separate. It's almost like completely separate hobbies, except they're hobbies that drain cash, and you're trying to make money off of them, and that's not a hobby. It's a drain.
Yeah. You know where you can learn about these techniques and more? It's at cashflowmike.com. If you're interested in starting a sideshow venture and you need somebody to tell you not to, contact me, Mike, at cashflowmike.com.
That was beautiful. That was just a segue, like golden segue right there.
I need to save that. If you need somebody to tell you no, contact me. That was my look as around the 30-minute mark. I'm like, we need a commercial.
That was a beauty because I know you set me up last week, but it kind of hit me by surprise because I thought it was your week. But that was just like, woo, right through. That was beauty. That was a beauty. That I applaud that.
That was the dumbest one I've done yet.
So is this our side hustle? Trying to get a little free beer?
Wait a second. Yeah, I think it is. So I guess our businesses have a side. Oh my God, it's us. We have an enemy, and it's us.
It's us. Well, I wouldn't say that because we're not draining the bank account to do this show. But it's,
if you listen to this show, you can tell that there's the smallest amount of money possible put into this thing, the absolute smallest.
Yeah, the money that's put in is when we buy our own merch. Really?
I think we're one of 4 people that have bought merch, maybe 6.
Yeah, something like that. We're leading the pack. It's cool merch.
We are leading the pack. It's good merch. I don't know why nobody buys it. All right. Can I complain a little bit about our coffee mug? I didn't know
Sure.
when you showed it to me. It's a little small. I like more coffee than that. It's a little small.
It's tiny. It's absolutely tiny. But
So
I use it for pens because my mug, my mug for coffee, man. If it's not Yeti, it ain't a mug. So I got my new Power Peralta, big giant Yeti mug. Oh man, I love that thing. But no, so it's for pens for me. That's what I. But it is a little bit little to use for coffee.
It
It's
feels
a little baby mug.
It feels like a teacup. It feels like a teacup, like something I would have with my daughters.
Yeah, it looks bigger online. Just warning you guys, if you want to buy the mug, the metal one is super cool, but it's kind of small. It's weirdly small. I don't know why.
I didn't know until we got it. I guess they probably put dimensions on there, but that's reading. That takes a lot.
I think they try and hide those. They don't want anyone to know that the mug's a little small. So.
All right, but I do. You know who wears our shirt almost every time he comes down to the house, and I think he does it just to harass me. Yeah, neighbor Pat.
Is it Pat? Neighbor Pat?
Yeah.
That's not
Neighbor
harassing.
Pat.
That's awesome.
Huh? No,
That's awesome, man.
dude, I love that he does that, and he's actually said he's had people ask about it, like, going, "Hey, what is that?" Right?
Nice.
So that's gonna work. It's gonna work out, right? Bragger, how come you don't have a shirt yet?
Exactly. I can start wearing my shirt to the breweries. I wear it to the breweries and just like, hey guys, sponsor us.
There you go. Yeah, that's what you need. All right, so that's an interesting thing, though, that you said, is this our side hustle? So I hadn't thought about it that way. We definitely have lost money, not made money.
Yeah, I don't think it's a side hustle. This is a hobby. This is what I would call this is a hobby. So
I tell people all the time, I'm like, I do it because I don't know how often. All right, besides your significant other, spouse, partner, whatever you got. Besides that, how often can you really just hang out with your friend hour after hour after hour and talk about anything you want to and drink beer?
no, it's a rarity, especially at our age.
Yeah.
It just doesn't happen.
Yeah,
So this
right?
is great. This is not. It's not a side hustle. This is like education for us. Education and stress relief. There you go. So, mental health.
I do learn every time we talk. I mean, I learn something that I can apply. I learn something that I can take back. Even some of the stuff we talk about after the show, right? I'm like, oh my God, I didn't think about that. And, we actually, you're pretty insightful. I mean, you're boring on radio, but I mean, you're. I just about dropped an F-bomb there, and then I'd have to check a little check box on the when we upload the video or whatever that it's Blaine's F-bomb changed the rating of our show. Well, honestly, it's funny because he shows like every once in a while,
something will come up, and I almost stop because I start thinking about it, and I almost want to take notes, and you did catch me with this one where they looked at what they had for resources and used it to drive traffic and make more money. And I just thought, man, that is such a lesson of, I wonder how that came about. Like, did they just walk out and it was fairly obvious, or did it hit them one day that, man, we got all this concrete here, we got all this pavement, and what could we do with it? And it was just like a lightning bolt that thought, man, we can make money off of that and drive traffic right into the brewery. That's just brilliant.
You know what probably happened? And A, this is a made-up story. B, it's just my educated guess. I bet an employee was going to take vacation and goes, well, I'm going to stop by here, work this shift before we leave. We'll leave right after I get off work. And he brings his RV to work. And then he goes, hell, we got a lot of room here. We could have plenty of RV. This could be an RV park. I could just park here. And it was probably some dumb comment like that somebody else goes, yeah, why couldn't we do that? Right? I mean, that's how the best ideas happen. It's like going, yeah, that makes sense. Why wouldn't that happen?
Well, and the interesting thing. Oh, sorry. Yep. Go ahead. No,
I was going to change with a different story, but you go ahead.
Well, what I find interesting is why breweries pop into my mind is because they're so often in interesting places. They're not often in like the high traffic, high rent places, unless they're very much that restaurant based one, because they got to generate so much money. They got to have so much money come through the door. Oftentimes they're tucked away in these interesting little spots. And we were at a new brewery last weekend called Polyrhythm in Edmonton. So if you're in Edmonton, go check out Polyrhythm. Cool little brewery on the north side. But we were sitting there outside and we were having a drink and they had some great food there and everything. And there's a giant wall to the building behind them. And I'm looking at it going, man, that is just made for a mural. That's just what popped into my mind, right? They had this made for a mural. But what it makes me think about is a lot of these breweries are in such sometimes really odd, but potentially really interesting locations. And it makes me think about other businesses. I think sometimes it's what's unique about your business, not what's the same as everybody else, but what's unique, and does that give you a pathway to an opportunity, right?
Yeah, I think it's right. You know, that made me think when you said mural. I had a building in St. Louis, and the manager of the restaurant wanted to put in a mural type ad on an open piece of the brick facing that was above the street that everybody could see.
Yeah.
And I said no. Because I'm like going, I was going to try to sell the building in a year. I'm like going, I don't know if somebody wants a big mural on the side of the building and let somebody else make that decision. So I said no. And, a year later after I sold the building, there's a mural there. So I'm like going, I wonder if I really hurt the manager of the restaurant by doing that, or if I missed out on an opportunity, because me saying no to something that I just didn't want to do on my own building really wasn't a good excuse to hurt a business. Not hurt a business, restrict a business.
Well, the other side of that is it could actually draw people in. Like no one's going to drive by like a gray wall and go, I have to stop there, or take notice of it, right? And the thing that I would say with a mural is it's way easier to cover up than it is to put a mural on something. So
yeah, and it was 2010, 2011. So we're talking 10, 11, 12 years ago.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I something in me didn't want to do it. And I look back now, 10 years older, like going, yeah, that was dumb. That was just a bad decision by me. I should have went ahead and did it. Because if it's done well, they're really beautiful. They're really nice.
Yeah, they are. They can change the whole environment, the whole atmosphere. I know downtown Phoenix is just full of murals. It changes the entire community up on Roosevelt. Like they're just, you walk through and it changes the feel, the atmosphere of the entire community, having these really cool, beautiful murals. And so I've become quite a big fan of them, actually.
Got it. All right, so you've been to San Antonio then, because I mean it's full of them, right? I mean there's a whole area. Oh,
Well, now it's on my list. Now I have to come and check out your pool and the murals.
now we got to drive down the murals. I mean,
Yeah, I did tell you the one time that I got halfway to San Antonio in a cab from Austin by mistake
What?
because I'm sure I told you this. We were in Austin. I was at South by Southwest. This is a long time ago, 2007-ish, I think. And I just got was a text message or something back then. I can't even remember that a bunch of the guys were going to this like shopping area. And so, but I was at a meeting, right? So I met with whoever it was and then left. And I hooked up with another guy and said, yeah, this buddy of mine said they're going to some shopping area. I wanted to pick something up for my wife. So we'll go. And so we get in the cab and he just seemed grumpy and I didn't know why. And all of a sudden we're driving through outside, we're in farmers' fields going by. And I'm like looking at the guy with me. I'm like, what the hell's going on? Like, are we getting kidnapped here? And this is weird. So I finally said, yeah, so it seems like we're going a little kind of a long way here. And he said, yeah, we're just on this side of halfway to San Antonio. It was $100 and some cab ride.
oh wow.
It was brutal. And I had no idea. And you could just look stuff up at Google at the time. What's that?
Yeah. For a $28 item at the mall.
Yeah, no, exactly. It was ridiculous. It was the dumbest idea, but I didn't know.
All right, so apparently, what time is it now? 4:47. So 6 minutes ago, Pat sent me some random ass text that I have no idea what he was even talking about now. So it's 6 minutes ago. So if you send text to me or you send messages to us, make them relevant. Give us some context. This says, that is what she said. So what do you say to that? That's what she said.
Pat, it was probably brilliant, like 5 minutes ago. We missed it. We missed it. Sorry, man.
That does not work.
That was like all I can think of is The Office with Michael Scott or whatever from The Office, and it was probably, we'll have to watch the show after. We'll watch it. We'll go, okay, around this point in, maybe it made a lot of sense. But sorry, Pat, we missed it.
Yeah, and he's probably like even 5 or 10 minutes behind, in the live, right? So, like, who knows what we're talking about? What are you talking about? That's what she said.
Our topics, have you seen, change, and we're drinking at the same time. So they just, this show, what I would say, the show, it meanders. I think that's the term. The show meanders, and
we eventually get there.
We do. That's part of the joy. It's the journey of getting to the answer at the end, right?
All right. So I didn't think about this as a sideshow venture or side hustle. Didn't think about it that way. I don't want to consider it like that way because I don't think it contributes.
I don't think it is actually. It's yeah. No, it's sideshows with a business or the side hustle. It's meant just to generate revenue. That's what it's all about, and it's a distraction a lot of times because it's oftentimes not related.
Well, this could be a side hustle. This could be if we were actually generating revenue and it was a business that could stand on its own. This is a side hustle. Yeah. It's like if we had
generating
a bar and
revenue, we're not profitable. We have generated revenue, we're just not profitable right now.
So, the side hustles I've seen, car dealerships have them. Sometimes they'll have these third-party companies, but the owner might own both of them, which they own the dealership and they own the third-party aftermarkets folks. Like they maybe put pinstriping on your car and that type of stuff, right?
Yeah.
That's a side hustle, which means they sell you a car and then they sell you the pinstriping.
Yeah. I've trouble believing like a side hustle where it's, I guess that's the thing is a good side hustle is a direct line. So it's an upsell. So if for a dealership like that, it's an upsell to go, okay, I've got this person in, now I can upsell them to get pinstriping on their car. Or the opposite, the side hustle drives revenue back into the main endeavor. The ones that I think are a little bit more dangerous is when they're completely unrelated. And in fact, like this is not completely unrelated to either of us because we're talking with business people. Business people find out about us. They come and check out Dry Run. They come and check out Cashflow Mike. So that actually is still a direct line for lead gen. But it's the ones where it's more of a distraction. Like, you know what, I'm doing this, but it isn't kind of working. So I'm going to do this, and it's completely unrelated, and it's going to drop like the construction company that started a bed and breakfast.
All right, so no shit. There I was. I lost $200,000. Got your attention? From a side hustle from my main business. Remember when I came to Scottsdale last time? It was to meet my friend that turned 50. That was the business partner that I lost some money with. Okay.
Yes. And I still think it was a brilliant product, though. So
that's the one, right? So if you guys don't know, I had bars and restaurants, I had hotel staffing, and he had an awesome product, super awesome. Matter of fact, we made it to the final stages of Shark Tank, which means our next step was going on the show. We couldn't figure out a good way to display our product on TV. Why? Because it's a hangover pill. What do? Get up on TV and go, yeah, I'm not hungover because I took the pill last night, so I'm not hungover. But dude, I partied in LA, and look at me, I'm awesome. How do you say that a hangover pill works, right? On TV in a 15-minute section. So we couldn't figure it out.
yeah.
So I got Walgreens involved, I got a distributor involved. I couldn't meet the turnover rates. My other businesses started to struggle because who was focused on hangover pills and creating TV commercials and radio commercials and all that stuff? Me. I was out there doing all this hustling around, trying to hawk pills, and all my other businesses started to struggle. Why? Because I wasn't putting in the same effort at the same time. I was taking money that I was making in one to fund this new venture. All it did was distract me and rob me of money. I made a big mistake, and that's the thing. I want people to understand that you can make such a quick mistake when you can't find alignment, and there was no alignment from, or I thought there was one from bar to pills, but it wasn't a direct connection, right? It really wasn't a direct connection.
That was that feels a bit like a manufactured alignment. Like it's sort of an after fact justifying the alignment rather than, oh shit, this is going to drive people into the bar. It's like, I can sell a few at the bar. Probably not quite the same thing, right?
Oh yeah, you're so damn smart now. Where were you in 2010? When we put Recover on the market? Where were you when one friend was telling me, this is going to be the best thing ever, we're going to be super rich? I needed my other friend like, oh, you're manufacturing alignment here. Where the hell were you?
I will tell you what we were doing in 2010. Our side hustle, the creative we just had, we started making apps for like iPhone apps. And it really was what ended up being kind of a side hustle because, again, it was all brand new, but we still thought we were too smart and would just make jibillions off of it. And granted, one of them actually did really quite well, but there's a whole bunch that did not. And it ended up being kind of a side hustle. It really was from our main agency. But, 2008, 2009, a big part of it for me was less a side hustle and more the revenue and sales were more lumpy than usual because of the recession, which meant I had to keep my team busy and try and generate some revenue. And fortunately, one of them did well, and we actually generated some pretty solid revenue. But there was a dozen stupid ideas built into that, and a lot of stupid apps that seemed like a hell of a good idea, made no money at all.
All right, so Pat has not responded, so I'm going to assume he's on a very, very long time delay. Okay, so but you were building apps, right? So you were building apps, and I don't know that then everything was moving that way. It was. I think it was natural to be gravitated into it.
Yeah, I think it was a bit of, there was a number of reasons, like I said, to keep the team busy, to try and generate other revenue streams, which honestly we did. If we knew what we were doing, we could have done a lot because the timing was right. Nobody knew how to do anything because it was brand new. And we had a good success. And we had a bunch that weren't successes. But I don't, the thing with that is it could have turned into, it's kind of interesting. I don't know if I would call it a side hustle in a way. It sort of was, but it also could have turned into, if I hadn't sold the company, it may have turned into our main service. Maybe one of our main offerings. I'm not too sure, right?
We did that at Finnegraph, same thing, right? But you use the analogy, we'll say bar with a restaurant, restaurant with a bar, right? Asking that question. At Finnegraph early on, nobody was buying our software at the rate that we needed to. Bank sales cycle were like 9 to 12 months long. How do you support yourself for 9 or 12 months with no revenue coming in? Well, you build training, right? But then are you a training company with software? Or are you a software company with training?
Yeah.
And what happened was both could exist on their own. That's why I'm training and there's still software up there, right? So it's one of those things where both could exist. But at the time, we needed the one to fund the other or support the other. And then it became where the software actually was bigger than the training, right? So you could separate off the extra, just cut the fat.
Yeah,
Which
and
is
that's a real challenge because it's like they dovetail and they drive back and forth, and that kind of makes sense. But it can also, depending on the size of your team, and that be a bit of a distraction. So that's the other thing I actually should say is, my feeling is that something actually may make perfect sense, but it may not be feasible because you may not have the resources to support it. It may cost too much to implement. So it might be like this kind of side hustle. It's a direct line. It drives traffic. It drives business. It makes us money. But like without running the numbers and knowing exactly what you're in for, it could make perfect sense and still drain you.
Okay, so the way you just described it, is that a side hustle or a channel?
Well, it feels a little bit like that's not a decision. It's an analysis you have to make because it is, again, it circles all the way back to: are you a bar with a brewery add-on, or are you a brewery with a restaurant add-on? Where is your passion? What are you good at? And when you add that other side on, does it make sense? And does it actually, is it a distraction, or does it drive revenue? Like I know with breweries, because it takes time to get the beer going and get it and get the market going, the wholesale market, and getting cans out the door. I don't know enough about breweries. I would never open one even though I love them, because I don't know enough about it. But I can see the risk and why you have that brew pub, because you get cash flow right away. And some of the most successful breweries in North America are basically a restaurant with, I'll be honest with you, with shitty beer, like really kind of crappy beer, but a good atmosphere, okay food, really good investment on the restaurant side. And they do really well. But it's because the beer is the add-on. The beer is like, yeah, we do our own ketchup. Like it just doesn't have the drive to it, right?
All right, so episode 90, what'd you learn?
Oh, man. I learned that both of us doing 8% giant cans is probably not the best bet. But I do circle back. I will say, though, like we are talking, the first sentence almost out of your mouth made me start thinking about this. And I think that's the thing that everyone can take home right now is, what do you guys have? And what do I have that is that giant parking lot that's sitting underused? It reminds me of like the mall, like West Edmonton Mall. I'm in Edmonton, and it was the biggest mall in the world. I don't know if it still is, but I remember that one of the comments I heard from, because we had talked with some of the management on the mall years back, and they were talking about, it was something about basically keeping the parking lots full. Like that was their job, keep the parking lots full 24 hours a day. So how do you do that when the mall is basically 9 to 5 or 9 to 9? And well, it's like, because you got a casino, and you got a movie theater, and you got bars, and because their basic idea was, if we can keep those parking lots full, it's generating income. And it's just looking at it, it's a bit of that out of the box thinking of, what do you have to work with, and how do you use those resources that you think is just a dead ass parking lot sitting there? How do you actually use that to your advantage? And that's makes me think about the same thing. What do we have that's basically a giant empty parking lot that we should be using?
Yeah, see, that's what I learned as well. It's like, it's the assets. I mean, how can you use what you have to make additional money, right? But I think what the side hustle thing is, it has to have, and I think your words were direct connection. It can't be manufactured. It can't be loose. It can't be maybe. It has to be not only justified. I think you got to quantify it. You got to say, every time we have 10 RVs in the parking lot, we make an additional $20 or $1,000 that we didn't have before.
Yeah. I actually think it can't just be justified, because it's easy to come up with a reason to make a connection. Yeah. I think it has to have a real concrete business case that makes sense. And it still is a bit of a risk, right? It's still that, but if you have that connection, man, it's worth trying then. It's definitely worth trying.
All right. Episode 90 is in the books. It's in the books, and you said, well, my business has a side hustle. But if you want to know more about it, or you want to hear other episodes that Mike and Blaine have done, go to mikeandblaine.com. We have 90 episodes that you can download right now. Right now, today, you can download 90 and get on your way to educating yourself on business, beer, and BS. I'm Mike Blaine, also known as Cashflow Mike. That is Blaine Birch. Blaine, final thoughts.
Make sure you follow us. Make sure you like us. Make sure you catch all of our episodes and as they come out. And make sure you support your local small breweries, because we love them. Small business, we love them. Make sure you support them.
Check out their website at mikeandblaine.com. Then subscribe to the podcast and buy these guys a beer.